Alex Eala had just won a point to go up 2-1 in the first set against Elena-Gabriela Ruse. Suddenly, she raised her hand and brought the entire match to a pause. Not because Alex needed anything, and not because there was a problem on the court. She had noticed a fan who had collapsed in the bleachers at Tony Trabert Stadium 3. And that moment showed another side of Alex Eala's personality. The way she reacted made one thing very clear. When it comes to humanity, everything else comes second. The tennis match, the competition, the score, none of that mattered in that moment. For Alex Eala, the human being comes before everything. Let's dive in and see exactly what happened and how this moment affected Alex Eala's image and the reputation of Filipinos. This is Mason, Ohio, August 15th, 2026, the Cincinnati Open round of 64 Lindner Family Tennis Center. In air so thick with humidity, it turns a tennis match into an endurance test before anyone's even hit a real winner. And here's where this whole story actually lives. Not the score, not the ranking points, not the draw. The moment play paused for a person in the crowd, and what Alex Eala's role in that pause really was. The sequence matters here, so let's walk through it. Eala started slow and an early service break against her. She clawed the set back to 1-1, then she held serve with a service winner at 30-0 to go up 2-1. That's the shot that ended the game. And right after that hold, not during a point, not mid-rally, a spectator collapsed in the bleachers. Alex Eala and match officials drew attention to the situation. That's the exact language on record. Not Eala alone. Not Eala stopped the match single-handedly. Eala, alongside officials, flagged what was happening in the stands, and that's what prompted the chair umpire to pause play so medical staff could reach the fan. It's a smaller claim than the headline version of this story that's probably already floating around out there, and honestly, it's a more interesting one, because it's true. But here's the thing. This wasn't the only time this season Eala's attention left the scoreboard. Rewind to March 2026, Indian Wells Stadium, 3BNP Paribas Open. Eala had just beaten Diana Yastremska in a match that ran 2 hours and 43 minutes a grind. She's doing the live televised post-match interview, microphone in hand, in front of 8,000 people. And mid-sentence, she sees a ball boy fall and injure himself on the hard court. She drops the microphone. She runs, not toward a camera, not toward her box, across the court to a kid who just went down right alongside tournament medical staff who were already moving. 8,000 people gave her a standing ovation for it. That's not a scripted gesture. You do not script dropping a live mic on national broadcast. So when Cincinnati happens 5 months later, it's not a one-off, it's a pattern. And that changes how you should read the whole story. This is not, tennis player has a nice moment. This is a competitor whose attention doesn't fully leave the people around her. Even in the middle of a match, she's actively trying to win. And this is where things shift in Cincinnati specifically. Once the umpire paused play, medical personnel reached the fan, stabilized them, and got them to a medical station. Play resumed. And here's the part that gets lost if you only tell the hero version of this story. Eala came back from that stoppage and immediately broke Ruse's serve. To love. She closed out the first set 6-1 in 34 minutes. That's not the pace of a player who got rattled by an interruption. That's the pace of a player who compartmentalized a human moment and a competitive one, back to back, inside the same 15 minutes. What happened next threw even more at this match. Cincinnati wasn't done. Ruse called for a medical timeout for a right foot injury. Then at 12:11 p.m. Eastern Time, the entire venue was suspended. Not for a fan this time, but for approaching thunderstorms and lightning. 3 separate stoppages in one match. A medical emergency in the crowd, an opponent's injury timeout, and a weather suspension. Ruse ultimately retired trailing 6-1, 3-0 during that weather delay. And here's a detail that deserves more weight than it usually gets. Eala's only recorded comment from that entire match isn't about the fan, and it isn't about advancing to the round of 32. It's about Ruse. I was playing well and feeling really focused. I tried to stay in the zone. A retirement is not the way you want to end a match. I wish her a speedy recovery. Injuries are not fun. 3 stoppages, 1 win by retirement. And the quote she chose to give was concern for the opponent who couldn't finish. That's the real reveal here. Not the fan in the stands, but where Eala's attention consistently goes when the match isn't the only thing happening on court. Zoom out further, and the pattern gets harder to write off as coincidence. Back in June at the WTA 500 Berlin Open, on the grass at Steffi Graf Stadion, Eala's second set against Donna Vekic was also halted. Eala leading 4-3 for a spectator who needed emergency medical care in the stands. Play paused. Medical staff assisted the fan. Eala went on to win 7-5, 6-4. Different tournament, different continent, different opponent, same category of interruption. A stadium full of strangers and a match that had to wait for one of them. None of this makes Alex Eala a first responder. She's not medically trained as far as this record shows, and nothing here claims otherwise. What it shows is smaller and honestly more human. Across 3 tournaments on 3 different surfaces, hard court in Indian Wells, grass in Berlin, hard court again in Cincinnati, Eala's matches have repeatedly crossed paths with strangers in the crowd who needed help. And in at least 2 of those moments, her attention visibly went there before it went back to the scoreboard. So here's the question this record can't answer because the facts just don't go that far. Was Cincinnati the moment Alex Eala's reputation for this actually solidified, or was Indian Wells already enough? And Cincinnati was just the tour finally catching up to something that had been true about her all along.